This podcast is a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to find out more. Hey guys, Mike here. Just a quick message at the top of this episode because I forgot to mention it in the actual episode, but next week's episode of 20th Century Boy, if I am not mistaken, is the 100th episode, and I would love to do a little bit of content and maybe some bonus content around that. So, just as a start-off point, I'd love it if you could send me a message anywhere, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, email, whatever, and just tell me some of your favourite memories of listening to this show over the years. If you're an old listener, like anything you remember. If you're a new listener, anything that sticks out in your mind, that would be awesome. So thank you, and enjoy what I can only assume is episode 99. See you soon. Well, I'll see you... Well, I'm going to play the intro now, and then me from the past is going to... Anyway, you get what's going to happen. The podcast is going to... I'm going to stop. Enjoy episode 99. Full stop.
Show your move. Good news, everyone. We see onions have
Welcome to 20th Century Boy. My name is Rando Podrician, and this is the inside of my mind. Welcome to the show. Rando Podrician sent in by Radio Juzzy. Every week, someone sends in a new name for me. Radio Mike. Real name Radio Mike. Fake name for the week, Rando Podrician. Of course, if you don't know, a reference to Lando Calrissian of Star Wars fame, who I believe appears... Oh, when does he... Which Star Wars does Lando... It must be episode 5 that Lando first appears in, right? If not, I've got that completely wrong. And of course he appears in one of the new ones? I don't know. Lando was never one of my favourite characters, to be honest. I don't care too much for Lando. But Rando Podrician, thank you, Radio Juzzy. Of course, my name is Radio Mike. Podcast producer, comedy person, writer from here in Melbourne, Australia, trying to make his way through the rough and tumble of being a 26-year-old person, living life, working, doing stuff, working more. And yeah, thank you for joining me again for another episode of this podcast. I will start the podcast this week by also saying, Chiquitita, tell me the truth, I'm a shoulder you can cry on.
Chiquitita, you and I know.
I am slowly learning the lyrics to Chiquitita by ABBA, and in a few weeks' time I will be performing that in full for you guys on the podcast because I've had that song stuck in my head for 15 years and I really want to get it out, and I realized the only way to get a song stuck in your head, out of your head, is by learning all the words. Do a 360 on the spot right now, because as always, we are the only winnable podcast in the world. If you do a 360 on the spot and I happen to be in your vicinity right now, you have won the podcast. I'll give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Probably a little bit short on the second counters, but if you haven't done your 360 yet, do one now. Smell around, look around, hear around, feel around. Don't have any wandering fingers, but just feel around, because you might, if you know, like, the shape of my head and the shape of my shoulders, right? You're looking for a very human Shrek-shaped head. A very human Shrek-shaped head. You know, I'd like to think I have reasonably broad shoulders. Not the broadest, but they're broad. I don't know. You probably don't have an idea of how my body feels, which is probably good. Let's keep it that way for now. Do your 360. Got a message in from... Oh, and if you see me while you do your 360, you win the podcast, by the way. Got a message in this week from Radio Nicole, who I believe is a new listener of the show, and I think that because... and welcome to the radio family, Radio Nicole. She sent me a simple message on Instagram, radio.mike, saying, "Happy 25th birthday, sunshine." Obviously a reference to a previous episode of this podcast that came out on my 25th birthday, where I told people, whenever you listen to this podcast, send me a message saying happy 25th birthday, because then in theory I will be 25 forever and I will be immortalized in the podcast world. Even when I'm dead, please send me messages saying happy 25th birthday if you're listening to that episode for the first time. Scarily coming close to my 27th birthday now. It's already like nearly the end of March 2021. Time is going so quickly. We're all going to be dead soon. Take a second to think about that. But thank you, Radio Nicole. Follow up from last week as well, Radio Muir. Welcome to the radio family, Radio Muir. For whatever reason, I just assumed Radio Muir was from Europe because his name was Muir, which is probably not the best thing to just assume. I thought he was from Germany. I don't know why. He's written in, so in case anyone else was wondering about the Radio Muir saga, he said, I'm not from Germany at all. I never have been. Last time you mentioned me on the show, you guessed that I was from Europe, and I guess that just slowly solidified in your mind. Loved the podcast this week. It was very crab. And of course, crab is essentially this podcast thumbs up emoji. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I hope you've caught up, but there's a lot more coming. Lots and lots of stuff happening. And of course, the 20th Century Board, which is here. It lists all the goals for the podcast, usually as a countdown to Nug 100 and a quote of the week from one of the listeners. I did get a quote of the week in from Radio Legbot. Welcome to the Radio family, Radio Legbot. However, we have lost the texter, the whiteboard marker, to the 20th Century Board. So there are no whiteboard markers elsewhere in the house. I cannot update the 20th Century Board. If you have a spare whiteboard marker and would like to send it to me, I would really appreciate that because now the 20th Century Board is absolutely useless. And I will read out Legbot's message because it can't be on the board. It says, Oi James, can you hurry up and get the DVD case, lad? No idea what that means, but that's a message on... That's what the 20th Century Board is supposed to be for. It's a bulletin board. You guys can put up any message you want. Obviously, Radio Legbot has a message for James. He wants him to get the DVD case. We don't know the details, but if James is watching the video version of this podcast... He happens to be watching it. He sees on the 20th Century Board a message for him and he goes, I remember the DVD case. Thank God for the 20th Century Board. I've got to give it back to Legbot. And that's how it works. So if you've got anything for the 20th Century Board, a message for someone, a quote, just send it into radiomikepod@gmail.com. That'd be great. And a replacement texter would also be great. Guys, let's do a quick recap of 20th Century Boy in general. It started in 2019. And 2019 was the first year of the pod. That was when my 25th birthday episode was, December 12th, 2019. Had a second season in 2020 and a third season. This is season 3, 2021 season. And, wow, I'm stunned at how much it's grown over the last few years. I'm super excited about the community around this podcast. There's a Discord with heaps of members. There's a podcast phone number, 1-800-438-353. There are so many just cool things that this podcast has brought into my life, cool people that I've met, and it's such a fun thing that I just love doing. Like, I genuinely just love being a part of this podcast community. Of course, since 2020, basically 2020, but for a while, my content and the Radio Mike brand and Radio Mike Productions has been growing a lot. We did a podcast called The Popped Podcast for a while, which is currently on hiatus. We also now do another weekly podcast, Harry Potter and the Boys, which is going really well. Lots of listeners, lots of input, and I'm really enjoying that, getting guests on. We also do Mike Talks, sometimes the spin-off edition of this podcast. And of course, I do content on YouTube nearly every weekday now. There's a lot happening for us. We also have merch, radiomike.com.au/merch, which is also a great place where you can pick up a bunch of stuff to support the show. Your Haunted House t-shirts are up there. We've sold a bunch of those. Thank you for buying them. There's actually no more large or medium white t-shirts. The black t-shirts there still are, but if you are a large or a medium in white, you won't be able to get one at the moment, so hang tight. And of course, your sticker packs, there's still a bunch of sticker packs, and we are also about to launch a new sticker, but that kind of comes into what I want to say next, which is a big deal for the show. It has been in the works for some time. It's been something I've been putting off for a long time, but I'm finally ready to launch this, and I really hope you'd be willing to get around it, because as of today, as of the time you were listening to this podcast, we now have a Radio Mike Patreon.
Chiquitita, you and I know.
If you're not familiar with Patreon is basically a chance for creators to directly connect with fans or listeners or whatever, viewers, and for a very small monthly donation, you get access to exclusive content and things like that. Patreon is a really good way for small creators like me to just make some money off what they're creating. I'm not looking to become a multi-millionaire. I'm honestly not. It just costs me, it actually costs me a lot of money. Not a lot of money, but it costs me, like, monthly costs of this podcast, about $60 a month just to host all of my content, right? That's just a fee, and it will go up soon because I'm running out of bandwidth. Then I've got stuff like this camera that shoots in 1080p 50 frames per second. That was $1,300. My Rodecaster was $800. These microphones that I speak into, the mic arms, the light that's lighting this shot, like all of that has cost money, and I'm just trying to do small things to recuperate the cost. It's patreon.com/radiomike. If you've liked any of my content over the years, if you like this podcast, if you like Harry Potter and the Boys, if you watch my YouTube stuff, please think about I don't expect you to do it for basically I feel weird about asking people for money, but if you do like my content, please consider subscribing to it. There's a few perks in there. I've tried to make it as simple as possible. So there are 4 tiers that you can donate to, right? So for $4 a month, you are an intern on the show. And everyone gets this for every tier because I didn't want to hold it off, but this is the lowest tier, $4 a month. You get access to something that people have been asking me for a very long time, which is essentially, it's a working title, but at the moment it's called The Mike's Podcast. In the first season of this show, we would regularly get the adventures of all the people that worked on this show, myself, intern Mike, editor Mike, and Siggy Mike. And we haven't had that for a while. A lot of people miss it. Well, there is a twice monthly podcast, so 2 episodes a month. A fortnightly podcast is probably a better way. That is just it's called The Mike's Podcast, and it is, the gang is back together, and we've recorded the first episode. It should be up on Friday of this week, and that's there for you if you sign up to the Patreon. 2 extra podcasts with the characters every month. That's incentive. And then every YouTube video I do has an end screen, and your name will be in the end credits of that YouTube video. For $8 a month, you can be an assistant producer on the show. You get the bonus Mike's Podcast, the end screen credit, and then one more. Oh, there's also an exclusive Discord channel for all the Patreons, which I will set up. And you get access every time there is a new sticker that I launch. You will get a free version of that sticker with that tier. And that includes the sticker that we launched today, which is now up for sale on the website. The Don't Block the MDF sticker. Put this sticker on any MDF in your vicinity, right? Don't block the MDF, labels it clearly, put it on an MDF. It is basically like a no symbol with Don't Block the MDF in it. I've got it on the back of my laptop, and I will hold it up to you. There it is, just there amongst all of the other stickers that you can get. I might make like a pack where you can get every sticker for a reduced amount of money, or a sticker in it, stickers and shirts or something like that. Check the website, radiomike.com.au/merch. So you get a free sticker every time there's a new sticker. You'll get it on the assistant producer tier. Senior producer tier, $16 a month. You get everything mentioned before, and you also get to be a part of a monthly board meeting for Radio Mike Productions. It's not a real board meeting, but it's just a chance for us to hang out, catch up, talk, and talk about the content and anything you might want to see or any feedback you might have. And then for the very rich people, for $23.50 a month, an executive producer of Radio Mike Productions, you get a shout out credit. Your name is mentioned and thanked at the end of every episode of 20th Century Boy, and you get access to everything else before. This is really big. If you can't contribute, I totally get it. If you can contribute, awesome. There are already people who do donate to this podcast. One of whom has asked that their name is not, that it's not mentioned on the show that they've done that. So I'll respect that, but thank you to that person. You know who they are. The other person, I'm not sure if you made the same request, but I think you did. But I am happy to shout you out on the podcast next week if you are happy for people to know, because I'm very grateful to those people. If you can't do a monthly thing, that's fine. If you ever feel like if you think this podcast is worth $1 per episode to you, you can always just send $1 to paypal.me/itsradiomike. if you just think, that was a fun hour, I'll just chuck $1 to Mike, feel free to do that as well. But the Patreon is the best place to just get a bunch of perks and extra stuff. And there will be other stuff. I think there was one tier where I said that if enough people join the tier, I'll do a karaoke cover of any song voted for by that tier every month, sort of like what I'm going to do with Chiquitita. So that's something you can do. I'm also happy to I'm open to other things that you guys might want if you decide to go with the Patreon. I'm really happy for you guys to give feedback. I'm happy to do Q&As, Zoom meetings, movie night, like all that stuff I'm open to. This is just really experimental. And in terms of goals for the Patreon, basically the end goal of the Patreon is that it would be great to get Pat, who is our editor, in working basically 2 days a week with the money that we're making on Patreon. So the long-term goals are, I'd love to be getting Reels and TikToks, clips of my content up, which is currently just hard to do because I don't get those platforms and I already have so much work in my normal job, and then to do clips and everything like that is quite hard. Managing the YouTube clips channel, Pat to do that as well. And all the stuff Pat's already doing, and hopefully just get Pat in for more of a production-based role, which there currently isn't a budget for. As far as Patreon goes, I'd love to talk about the Patreons that I support, the creators that I support on Patreon. So there's 3 that I currently support. One of which is Four Finger Discount, which is a pop culture podcast network based in Geelong. I had Brendan Dando from Four Finger Discount on my Mike Talks podcast a few weeks ago. The other one is Dave Lee from Dave Lee Down Under, who I had on Mike Talks as well, pop culture YouTuber. And then another American gaming YouTube channel called Good Vibes Gaming. I support them as well, and they do. Oh, and the other thing that I didn't mention is I will, if you're on the Patreon, I will convert every YouTube video I do to an MP3 version that you can get as a mini podcast as well. So you get your own private podcast feed if you subscribe to the Patreon. So if you do decide to do that, private Patreon podcast feed that you can play in your local podcast app, and all of my YouTube vids I'll turn into MP3. Some will work better than others, but I'm just so you can watch or consume my content however you'd like to. You don't have to bounce between platforms. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know how it's going to go, but yeah, my proposition to you is that if you've enjoyed my content, I'd love for you to sign up to the Patreon, get a bit of bonus content, or if you think this podcast is worth $1 a month to you, feel free to just send $1 to my PayPal, just like to pay off the podcast from being hosted online. Or you can, if not, if you don't want to do the Patreon, maybe just grab a Don't Block the MDF sticker. These are really cool stickers. Just grab one of those. That'll, like, you buying one of these stickers, literally, even if you're not going to use it, you just buying one of these stickers really goes a long way to keeping this podcast running, right? Like, anything you buy off the shop, all that money just feeds back into the podcast to try and break even on it. So, like, if you have time, go check it out. Patreon.com/Radio Mike. Sign up if you can. Chuck us $1. Pick up one of these MDF stickers. You get them for free if you join the second tier or higher on the Patreon. But if not, just pick one up off the website. It really will help, and it'd really mean a lot to me. But again, absolutely no stress. I know people are in different positions, particularly at the moment financially, with the feed, like the trickle-on effect of COVID and people not working and things like that. So no stress whatsoever. But feel free. I'd love to have you around, and thank you so much, as always, for supporting my content. Okay, we definitely need to chat about this. Nug 100! Nug 100 is so much closer than I thought it was. And you know what? Last week on the show, I also didn't have the texter for the 20th Century board. I'm not sure if anyone knew that. So the countdown hasn't been going for 2 weeks. And I've realized that Nug 100 is next week. Nug 100 is in 7 days from today. Am I ready for Nug 100? I think Nug 100... Because of Nug 100, I gave myself this license to eat like shit for the whole month, because I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to be eating 100 nuggets. I might as well bloody practice for it. But what I've realized is that my tummy is just not is not coping with with lots of food. Me and my housemates went out to dumplings the other night, and they were like, should we get a share plate of dumplings? And I actually just said, I reckon I could have 15 dumplings on my own so easily. Like, I could easily just have 15 dumplings amongst other stuff. And you know what? I was really hungry for that meal, and I did. I smashed the 15 dumplings. I reckon I could have had 15 more. And I had some lemon chicken, some Chinese broccoli, and some rice. So that was big. So I'm honestly not sure how I'm feeling. Next week is the 100th episode of the podcast. We should do some bonus content around that. But yeah, next week, 100 nugs, 100 minutes. And the only reason I realized it was next week is because Pat called me. He's going to come out and shoot it, and we'll turn it into a little package and a video for YouTube and stuff. And Pat was like, hey, so what are we doing next week for Nug 100? And I was like, fuck, it's next week. Guys, all of you have been very critical. And yeah, I genuinely admit that I'm not ready. I'm genuinely not ready. We're just going to see what happens. What I would love is some messages of support to 1-800-438-353, or if you'd just like to send a voice message on Instagram or whatever, feel free to do that as well. Any message of support would be great. Next week is going to be a big week for the show. Episode 100, we'll definitely do some flashback for that. And then, yeah, the full episode with the Nug 100, there'll be a video of that. So, well, this first goal of the show, as we can see on the 20th Century board, we're nearly there. And speaking of goals from the show, there is another one that we do need to chat about. Goal number 4 on the 20th Century board, watch The Dream Factory. Now, this is actually quite a long story, so rather than make the person that's joining me just wait for a while, I will introduce him now. Radio Whitey joins me by a VMix line, which I don't really know what it is, but he does. Whitey, thank you for being part of the show.
Thanks, Mike. Happy to be involved.
And I guess, well, I'll just start. Basically, we started a new thing on the show, The Dream Factory, which is the new way for the show to say that you're asleep. You know, I'm heading to the Dream Factory. You give an example, Whitey.
Yeah. One. Well, I mean, last night I clocked onto the factory at sort of around 1 a.m., spent 7 or 8 hours there, and then headed out about 9. So it was a pretty good shift at the Dream Factory, really. Good
shift at the Dream Factory. Nice, man. And then we all realized collectively that there is a Chinese film from 1987 or something like that.
I think it was 97.
1997. Within the last 25 years, whose title translates to The Dream Factory. I then enticed everyone that we should have a podcast viewing session of the Chinese film The Dream Factory. The only thing we needed to do was find a copy of this obscure Chinese film. So, Whitey, I am of the understanding that you have found this movie by some means.
Yeah, that's right. So there's been some ridiculous rumors on the Discord about, piracy and illegally obtaining things, all sorts of absurd statements. Obviously, as any reasonable person would, I got on a plane, traveled to China, went to the local Blockbuster where they're actually selling an old copy of The Dream Factory.
Nice.
And paid the equivalent of about $3 for it, and I've got a legit. Yeah. I don't have it here. I'd show it to you, but I've got a legitimate copy of it. So it's great.
Yeah. So can you confirm that? And I assume you bought it on DVD, and you've now ripped that DVD into a file on your computer that you could then broadcast on Discord to the entire radio family.
Yeah, I spoke to the local distributors in China about the broadcasting rules, and they said, yeah, it's fine, man, just go for it. So yeah, I've ripped it, put on the subtitles, it's ready to go.
I mean, I know that, let's just say it took you a long time to get to China and get this movie. It took like a month, the whole process, didn't it?
Well, it's a bit hard to travel at the moment, man. I got other things going on too. Like, I'm very interested in the Dream Factory, but I've got other things.
Yeah. So what I will say is, are you happy to, and I assume no, even if you did pirate it, I don't think anyone cares about this film, even in China. Not that you pirated it.
Of course
but,
not.
I'm curious, are you happy to run a Radio Family movie night where we all watch The Dream Factory?
Mate, I think it would be fantastic. I'm actually really excited. I've only skimmed through it to make sure it works. I don't know what it's about. I'm very keen for it.
And how did you find the subtitles?
That was very difficult. Those I did find on a random obscure Chinese forum, and I spent a lot of time on Google Translate working out what I was reading and trying to find the right file. But they do sync up. I've skipped through the movie and the words seem to sync up with what's going on in the scenes.
Right. Awesome. All right. Well, in the next few weeks, I will announce a date for us to have a movie night where we all watch The Dream Factory. Get in the Discord if you haven't already. Whitey, thank you very much for joining me on the show and for heading all the way to China to get a legal copy of The Dream Factory.
Always happy to, man. By the way, I'm expecting it's probably a Saturday afternoon movie. I wouldn't waste Saturday night on it.
You wouldn't waste an evening on it?
I wouldn't think so, no.
Okay, well, we might schedule it for a Saturday after. How long does it go for before you go?
I think it was about an hour and a half, hour 40.
Okay, yeah, that's a good. You wouldn't waste an evening on that.
Wouldn't waste an evening.
Thanks for joining me, Whitey.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers.
2 weeks ago, I launched a new segment on the show. It was called This. Drawing from the lyric of a Vance Joy song called Riptide, super interesting one. The idea of this segment is me and my housemate were doing this, where basically we'd literally just sing. It's from the Vance Joy song where he goes, "There's this movie that I think you like. This guy decides to quit his job and heads to New York City." And then, is that actually a movie? Does anyone know what movie that is? There's this guy decides to quit his job and heads to New York City. What movie is that? Does anyone does anyone know the name of that movie? What movie is he describing? Should I know? Is it an obvious movie? Can anyone answer this question? Because I genuinely have no idea what movie that is. This guy decides to quit his job and head to New York City. Is that like Cheaper by the Dozen or something? Because I remember in Cheaper by the Dozen, Steve Martin quits his job and goes to be like a football coach. But then the next line is this cowboy's running from himself. So you wouldn't think that would be Cheaper by the Dozen. If anyone knows that movie, please write into the show. I digress. The point of this is me and my housemate just started going, "There's this movie that I think you like." And then just describing a movie. For example, oh God, no, you can never think of a movie when you need to literally just think of a movie, and I can't think of one. Just any movie, Mike. Literally any movie in the world. Okay. This guy finds out that he's a wizard and goes to a magical school. That's one, right? What movie is that? You guys guess what movie that is. And like, it's just a fun game that we've been playing. A few weeks ago on the show, I did this one. I'll cut it in. This girl gets transported to an alternate universe and meets a lion and a tin man and the scarecrow as well. That's it. Now, we had a few people write in, and it wasn't... I guess the problem is they're always pretty obvious. Like, I feel like they're always very, very obvious. Here's what Radio Shooter wrote in as his answer. Welcome to the Radio Family, Radio Shooter. Speak your message, please.
G'day, Mike. Radio Shooter here. My guess for this movie I think you like is Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. Thanks, mate.
So that I think that's an obvious joke. It certainly wasn't Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. But thanks for writing in, Radio Shooter. For everyone that didn't know, and I'm sure you did, the answer was The Wizard of Oz. And that's how easy it can be. I'm still looking for listener submissions for this. So if you would like to submit your own movie that you'd think we'd like, leave a message, 1-800-438-353. We haven't had the jingle to that for a long time. We should hear the jingle to that. Can we play it here?
If you've got a contribution to the podcast, there's only one number you see. Go 1-800-438-353.
Great to have that back. I haven't heard that for a very long time. It needs to get a spin more often. Yeah, Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, no. Wizard of Oz, yes. Send in your own one. There's this movie that I think you like. that same boy from the last one goes to school and somebody opens the Chamber of Secrets. That one's probably more obvious than the original one. But there you go. Send them in. Just sing it. Send it in. I'll play it on the show. People have to guess. Brand new segment for you. I have a gripe with a friend that I would like to bring up on the show. And this was... Last week I told the story of my terribly terrible week from hell. Where I just had day from hell. I just had a really, really bad day. Had an awful day. My car broke down. I got stuck in a car park for an hour. I had to walk back. I had to drive back to work because I left a bunch of stuff there. I was so flustered. And what I didn't mention, because I wanted to save it for this week where I actually had time. Essentially, I had an incident with one of my friends and a friend of the show, official friend of the show, Sammy Garlep, comedian, who was on Harry Potter and the Boys this week for the third time, also known from the Tim and Sammy show. I bumped into Sammy Garlep while I was very flustered, and he was at the radio station where I drove to pick up a bunch of my stuff. And I was like, oh, Sam. And it was great to see him. Like, I was in this very flustered state. I saw a friend. We got chatting. We always laugh a bit. So it was really nice to see him. And we were just chatting and he was leaving. So he was like, oh, I'll walk you to your car. He walked with me to the car. We're chatting. I realize I've forgotten another thing at work. I've got to go back to work to get it. We walk back. Then we walk to his car, and then he realizes he's left something at work, so we walk back again. You know, we've spent an extra half an hour chatting than we intended to. Then we're at the front of the radio station, and I'm parked in the basement, and I'm really hungry, and I see that there's a pasta place that's open right outside the radio station. And I look at Sam and I'm like, hey, this chat's great. Like, we were genuinely having a good chat. And I say to him, let's jump it. Let's sit down. It's probably 8:30. Neither of us have eaten. No, peak dinner time. I'm like, let's sit down and let's grab a quick pasta and then we'll go. And Sam says, oh, nah, I won't get a pasta. And I was like, oh, okay. Did you want to get something else? He's like, no, I just don't want to eat with, like, he didn't want to eat with me. He didn't want to commit any more time to hanging out, even though we were having a good time. And then I said, well, what are you going to do? He's like, oh, I need to get some groceries from Coles. And then I said, I'll walk in with you. I'll walk around Coles with you. I got nowhere to be. I've lost the whole night. I'm happy to hang out. He said, nah. And Sam wouldn't get a pasta with me, and he wouldn't let me walk around Coles with him. And I felt like something weird was going on there that I didn't like. So I've decided to quiz Sam on it right here on the show. I'm going to call him up. My friend Sammy Garlep. I'm just going to pop my headphones in so I can hear the call. And, okay, I'm just going to dial the number in. I just need to get to the bottom of why. I've actually been thinking all week about why Sammy Garlep didn't want to get pasta with me. And didn't want me to come shopping with him. Okay, dialing it in now. See what he has to say for himself. It's ringing. It's ringing. It's ringing.
Ring-a-ding-ding, you've got the king.
Sammy Garlep. It's our Mike.
Mike.
Yeah.
How are you? Mike.
I'm very good. Thank you again for yesterday. That was fun.
No, it was fun. Yep, and thank you for yesterday for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm not sure if you know what this is about. It's not about yesterday, but I did have to get you up on my show because I feel like we had an incident about a week ago that we need to talk about.
Am I on the show right now?
Yeah, you're currently on the podcast. Say hi to the R family.
Hello to the radio family. Wow, long time, first time.
Sammy, here's what I have a gripe about. I don't understand still why last week when I was very flustered, I clearly needed a friend, and I was very emotional, and we bumped into each other at the radio station. We had a great chat, and then not only did you flat out refuse to get pasta with me, but then you didn't let me hang out with you while you were shopping at Coles. And you actually like specifically told me not to come to Coles with you. And I don't know why. Like I've been trying to figure out why you didn't want to get pasta. It would have been great to have just gotten a pasta. And 2, why you didn't let me come to Coles. Please explain.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, I was happy to have a chat. We were having a chat.
Yeah.
I was a bit flustered as well. You were way more flustered than me. You'd had the day from hell, it sounded like.
Well, that was actually the title of last week's podcast, so yes.
Well, there you go. Avid fan. Basically, we were chatting, and I was happy to stand around for 5 more minutes and have a chat, and you, for some reason, refused. You were like, no, I can't stand still and talk to someone.
Yeah, so this is a real thing. I'm not making it up. People probably don't know this about me. I can't stand still and talk to someone at the same time. I'm too fidgety. And like, I'm very particular. Like, I have to be in motion while telling a story.
Yeah, which people who don't know, Mike does this podcast on a tricycle, riding around the street.
No, I think it's more. Sorry, it's not that. It's that I can't be in motion and then stop while telling a story. Like I have to either be always seated or always moving in the middle of a story. Like I can't change in between. It doesn't. Yeah. But I'm not on trial here. I'm not on trial here.
Okay. And we learned that yesterday because then we were telling a story and we did a whole lap of the block to continue the story instead of stopping, which was good.
Yes.
Okay, then I don't like to shop with people because I hadn't decided what I was going to buy, and it was probably going to be unhealthy, and I didn't want you to see that.
So you were ashamed of what you might have bought.
I don't like shopping with people. I like shopping alone, because I just roam the aisles.
Okay.
Which brings you to the second point of the dinner.
Yeah, the pasta.
The pasta. You did say we're right outside the shop, and I was hungry, and I'd said that, and you said, why don't we get pasta together? And I said, no. I'm just quite direct.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, well, I'll just come to you to Coles. No. And I'm like, all right, I'll go home. I guess
Have you ever heard of the book? Have you read the book, The Power of No, Mike?
I've not, actually, but it's clearly working for you.
I haven't read the title. I've read the title, and that's enough. I feel powerful saying it. The funny thing is, I then refused that, but then I actually, once you started me on the track of pasta, I then started feeling like, oh, maybe I will go for pasta. And then just last night, me and my girlfriend went for pasta.
Oh my God.
I've been thinking about it ever since.
Oh my God. So why didn't you get pasta with me?
To be honest, I think I had cancelled date night. So I cancelled a date night with my girlfriend, my special friend of the Tim and Sammy show.
And then suddenly you're on an inadvertent date with R. Mike.
Exactly. And R. Mike is, although I'd love to be seen with R. Mike, except I felt like I was betraying her if I then ate dinner out on a night where I cancelled a date.
Yeah.
I quickly got into a quick radio segment as, you and I were in and out of the radio station, mainly out, but...
Yeah. Well, can I put this to you? Would you be open to getting a pasta with me and maybe just like recording at the pasta shop, a bonus episode of this podcast? Just like, because I just wanted you to prove that you would have gotten pasta with me. Like,
yeah, I know, because I did feel bad because then, considering I've gone to get pasta separately without you, it does seem like it was purely about you and your personality. But I can assure you it wasn't.
So you would be open to getting pasta?
I'm open to getting pasta with you.
Yeah. And
I guess recording our interaction just so that people know it's real.
Yeah, okay, cool. And I'd like to implore anyone listening to this, go to Sam on Instagram or even the Tim and Sammy Instagram And just whatever he's posted, I want you to comment something like, "That's nice, Sam, but it's disappointing you didn't get the pasta with Mike." Or just like, "When are you going to get pasta with Mike?" So if we can
I do feel really bad. So I feel like I have to get this. You were struggling. And that's actually really bad.
Tag me and Sammy in your story and do hashtag pasta with Mike. Tag us both so we can see. Let's get this trending so the pasta night can happen.
Oh,
and
Formaggio, Mike.
Yeah.
No.
And everyone wins. We get to get pasta together. The listeners get to interact, a crossover between my show and your show. It'll be crazy.
And hey, if you're in a pasta shop in the next few weeks and you see Mike and I, come pull up a spaghetti roll and
come say hi. Tell us about your favorite Italian food. We'll probably agree. Yeah.
Is it gnocchi? Is it pizza?
Is it lasagna? Who knows?
Non parlo molto bene italiano.
And there you go, guys. Sam, thanks for joining me.
Okay, thanks. I guess.
All right. See you guys. Hashtag pasta with Mike. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. We got to the bottom of it. So me and Sam will, at some point this year, we're going to get pasta at that specific pasta shop, which is Eto Pasta in South Melbourne. And he's finally going to make good on his alleged promise to get pasta with me because he said he didn't cancel because of my personality. So let's see how we go with that. That's actually 100% true, by the way. And so many people that I hang out with would vouch for the fact that I can't tell a story. It's weird. Like I save stories. Like if I'm walking to a restaurant with a friend or a date and I know there's a big story I need to tell, I won't tell it because I won't tell it till we're seated and we've ordered food because then I know there's nothing's going to I think it's because I think so much about how to tell stories. Like I do a podcast, like I literally tell stories on this. Like because the stories are so formulated in my mind, which is pretty weird, I don't like the idea of anyone interrupting that story in any way. So transitioning from being in the middle of a story, knowing all the beats of that story and then getting into a restaurant and having to get seated and interrupt it and then you have to recap, hate it. There's an art to storytelling. It does not involve being seated at a restaurant. We also need to follow up on one thing from the other week, which was the Seinfeld prank, a new prank that I have started. It's basically where you prank people and you just start singing the Seinfeld theme with no context in the middle of it. Why is it a prank? I'm not sure, but it's quite funny. I did it to Luke Kidgel, and I'm really happy for you guys to do your own hashtag Seinfeld pranks. Radio Scooter, welcome to the Radio Family Radio Scooter. We had Radio Shooter earlier, but this is Radio Scooter. Radio Scooter actually had some feedback on the Seinfeld prank.
G'day, Mike. Radio Scooter here. I was just ringing in about the last podcast, and sounds like you're up in Sydney. Really interested in Wonderland. I had a bit of an anecdote that I wanted to tell you, and I was just thinking, bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam.
So there you go, guys. It's easy as that. Feel free to Seinfeld prank me. Seinfeld prank is always running. You can prank someone with the site. It is not copyright. It's not a Radio Mike prank. I created it. But it is a prank for the Radio family. The whole family can enjoy the Seinfeld prank, and I implore you to do so at your next opportunity. Just Seinfeld prank someone. You'll get a lot out of it. And if you do Seinfeld prank someone, definitely fill me in on it and let me know how it goes. I would love to know. Just before we go, I have to tell this sort of more personal rave on the podcast about just something that's been happening in our house. I live in a house here with two friends, and we all live together and a dog, and we all have a great time here. It's the house. It's in a relatively old suburb, and it's a really nice house, like really big rooms. This is my bedroom that I record all my content in. So I'm sitting on a couch. I have a couch in my bedroom. My bed, everything else. They're really big rooms, really nice sort of old house. And But the thing about old houses, and particularly share houses that like people are just always renting off a landlord, they're just not always they're not always maintained very well. I'm pretty sure we don't have a smoke alarm, but that's just another story entirely. We probably really need one of those, and we've told them about it, but they're not really doing anything about it, and that seems pretty illegal. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about that is something we definitely need to follow up on though. The shower. So the other night, it was probably 2 weeks ago now. I was having a shower, and we've all had showers here. I think we can all agree when you're in the shower, when you're having a shower, you're pretty vulnerable. You're at some of your most vulnerable. And I think the shower for me, the morning shower is the last bridge between getting up, being asleep, being in the dream factory, showering, and then starting your workday, right? The morning shower is the final bit of freedom you have. So you let your guard down. You're vulnerable. You're naked, right? You could be bloody, I don't know, shaving your balls, or I don't know. Not saying that I was doing this when this story took place, but it's possible. Some guys like to have a smooth ball sack. You could be shaving your balls. You could be washing your boobs with soap. I don't know. Do people do that? I don't know. You could, you're washing with soap. You've got shampoo in your hair. You're vulnerable. That's what I'm trying to say. You might be leant down in a weird angle, shaving under parts of your body that you wouldn't normally be open about. And that's great. We all shower. So our shower did this thing while I was in the shower doing whatever I was doing. Basically, it must be just because the house is so old that over time this has happened, because essentially we have this big long shower head that connects in directly to the plumbing, to the pipes, right? It's one big steel shower head with a big shower head, and then one big pipe that connects to the plumbing. And literally mid-shower, as I said, vulnerable, this big pipe, and if you're watching the video, I'm kind of carving out how it looks. This big single pipe that attaches to the shower head bursts open, disconnects from the plumbing, and literally just there is literally a big metal shower head and pole just in the air. I'm freaking out, but I can't even process what's happening because now because it's burst, the plumbing pipes are actually just shooting out water everywhere, which is what's supposed to be going into that pipe that connects to the shower head. And so the shower head and the pipe are loose. They crash onto the floor with a bang. If it hit me in the head, literally the water pushed it and propelled it in the air, causing it to fall. If it hit me in the head, I could have died. There is hot water, squirting out of the pipes all over me, in my face, all over the walls and the ceiling of the bathroom. I don't even understand what's happened. My housemates start knocking on the door because they've literally just heard, fuck! And then me screaming in the shower. And then I, basically pick up the thing, shove it back into the pipe, causing the water to kind of shoot through, but it's still leaking out the sides and squirting everywhere. I just turn the shower off, and I mention it to the housemates, and we kind of just go, we'll see if it happens again. And then what happened was, this is the funniest part, I think. Everyone in the house would just keep, because you'd put it back in, and then you'd turn the shower on and it would work. So everyone in the house would just forget about this. So every time anyone would have a shower, everything would be fine for 2 minutes, and then suddenly you would literally just hear, fuck, from whoever it was, and then water squirting everywhere, emergencies, everyone coming in to try and hold it down, people at their most vulnerable, people in their most vulnerable state, and the shower was just absolutely fucked. And then it started, we were just ignoring it. I don't know why we didn't just call the agency to fix it straight away, but we just thought it would get better. Classic young person thing, I guess it'll just get better eventually. Then we just, then you just started dealing with it. So you'd have a shower, you'd know about 2 minutes in it's going to happen. Bingo, it happens. So then we just started grabbing the pipe and literally having a shower while holding the pipe into the other pipe so it would be okay. Like, and then you'd hold it in and then you'd sort of forget about it and it would stop and it would be fine. So then you'd get 2 minutes where you actually just forget all about this issue and then it would burst again and you'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Gotta hold it in. The plumber finally came the other day and fixed it. It took him like 5 minutes. He just like unscrewed something. I don't know. Or tightened something. I don't know. But it was an absolute disaster. It was a disaster of a week. It was just, and then we all decided we just couldn't shower for like the whole weekend. So no one in this house showered all weekend, right? We couldn't shower because it was so bad and water was like getting onto the plaster of the walls and we didn't want to damage the house and then they have to take money out of our bond to fix it, even though it wasn't even our fault. So we just didn't have a shower till Monday when the plumber came. And I had a shower. As soon as he left, I had a shower. It was actually one of the best showers of my life. But I was still like, it was like Pavlov's dog. Like being in the shower, I thought at any point this shower could burst, but it didn't, and it hasn't, and it's all good. Guys, that is all we've got time for this week. Thank you so much for listening. A bit up the top about the Patreon. We do this at the end, so let's just do this. The plug. Here's the plug. Patreon.com/Radio Mike. That's the first thing. If you can, I'd love for you to jump up there. If you subscribe today, your Don't Block the MDF sticker could like, I'll send it out. If you subscribe to that tier, you've got that, and every sticker in the future you will get as well. I might send an extra in with it. Who knows? So jump onto the Patreon for bonus content. From there, the YouTube, we are growing in subscribers. I put a video this week up about the evolution of animated sitcoms from The Simpsons to Rick and Morty, Futurama to Solar Opposites, and how I've seen all that develop. And of course, all the podcasts go up in full there, so please check them out as well. Subscribe to the YouTube, heaps of content going up there, only growing, and we are so close to being able to monetize. We need like 100 more watch hours. So if you have 100 hours and you just want to watch a bunch of my content, please do that. Radio.Mike on Instagram, and there is a second YouTube channel, which is the Clips channel, which has 9 subscribers. It'd be cool to get a few more on that. I'm hoping to implement that a little bit more. And radiomike.com.au for all my content, radiomike.com.au/merch for stickers, shirts, haunted house tees, and Don't Block the MDF stickers and other sticker packs. Harry Potter and the Boys this week, of course, yesterday with Sami Gallup, had an absolute blast. I will do a tease. There is a story, a non-related Harry Potter story on that pod that I'm definitely going to make into a clip about something that happened at our high school that was hilarious. So I would really love for you to check it out, even if you haven't checked out Harry Potter and the Boys yet. Why not? It's so good. I love it. I actually really like it. And aside from that, what else do we have this week? That's pretty much it for the week. So yeah, check out some of the YouTube vids, basically. That's pretty much all we got time for. Thank you so much for listening. I do really appreciate it. If you do happen to subscribe to the Patreon, I will try to get in touch with you, because I genuinely would appreciate it so much. And paypal.me/itsradiomike if you'd like to just contribute $1 a week or whatever you want to do. But yeah, for now, that is all we've got time for. I'll see you next week. My name's been Radio Mike. This has been The Inside of My Mind. Don't block the MDF. I'm a very kind young man, and some of your older staff could learn a lot from me. And I'll see you. Don't lie to me, because I'll see you. And if I do see you, it might be tonight in the Dream Factory. Catch you later, guys. Chiquitita, you and I cry.